Hello, loves. Welcome to another episode. How are you doing today? Just to let you know, we have next door doing a whole new bathroom and they've been drilling randomly, of course. And so if you hear something before I have a chance to edit it out, because I know I don't edit my podcast, but you do not want to hear the drilling sound that has been happening, and you also cannot hear me. So that's what it will be if you hear like a random vibration and then another recording. So just to let you know about that in advance. So today's episode is called How to Accept Your Fat Body. And I'm talking more so in context with the word fat being a neutral word, not a negative word, not a positive word, just neutral. And I am not in a quote fat body, so I'm very aware of that. I have privilege to just go to a clothes shop and just buy normal size clothes without having to go to a special shop, etc. But I want to talk about this in context of quote fat bodies. And what I mean by that is a body that is perhaps considered plus sized or in a large body or over the BMI healthy weight range, which I'm going to go into, which of course is bullshit. But I want to talk specifically about being in a fat body and recovered or recovering, because this can stop people from truly choosing to go all in and recover because of how they're treated in society and because the whole world is scared of fatness. And we get to change that. So I want to start off by talking about eating disorders and weight. And I've spoken about this briefly before, but I think it's definitely worth bringing it up, especially with what I'm talking about today. So 85% of people with eating disorders are not underweight using the measurement of BMI. And even though I think BMI is complete bullshit, I'll use it in context with this explanation. You can be underweight for your body, yet overweight on the BMI scale. You can be a healthy BMI, yet be underweight for your body. That was what happened to me. And so those 85% of people who are not considered underweight, yet who have an eating disorder, are just as valid as someone who is underweight using the BMI and who also has an eating disorder. The stereotype is that people with eating disorders, especially anorexia, are emaciated, like walking skin and bone. And that is certainly not always true. It can be true in terms, for some people, their genetics allow them to go there, but definitely not for everybody. And genetically, my body did go there when I had anorexia. It was obvious that I had an eating disorder. But when the anorexia morphed into bulimia and binge eating, which, by the way, was still a restrictive eating disorder, my biology was just overtaking my restriction, but I was still mentally and emotionally and physically restricting to the best of my ability. I didn't look like I had an eating disorder, but I was very much still in a restrictive eating disorder. And I've worked with many women whose bodies are not obvious, that they don't look like they have a restrictive eating disorder. And often their doctors don't diagnose the eating disorder. And in some cases, doctors can often praise and encourage disordered behaviors if the person with the eating disorder isn't in a very thin body or is not considered underweight on their BMI. And that is so dangerous. It's seriously like a doctor saying to someone, I'm not going to help you with your depression because you don't look like you have depression, you look happy. It's that fucked up. And I've worked with clients, and I'm working with a particular client as well. So if she's listening to this, which she will be, you know who you are, but I've worked with many before as well, that these clients have been restricting more than I ever had, even when I was in the anorexia and emaciated. They're restricting more than that, and they're in normal sized or larger sized bodies. Nobody is saying to them, oh my God, you need to eat. You need to take care of yourself. You need to stop exercising. Nobody is saying that they should get help. In fact, the opposite is happening. Doctors are praising any weight loss and actually encouraging it. just because nobody can see the physical effects of the eating disorder, but that doesn't mean it's not there. And that does not mean, certainly not mean, that it is not valid. And it certainly does not mean that your eating disorder isn't as bad as someone who is very skinny. That does not mean that at all. An eating disorder diagnosis should be based on the person's behaviors and how they think and feel in terms of how their behaviors are affecting their life and their mental health in a negative way. It should not be reliant on body size. If you're in an eating disorder, in recovery from an eating disorder, or you have recovered and your body is considered fat, and again, I'm using this context in terms of plus sized or in a larger sized body than what you can perhaps go and buy clothes in a normal shop from. And it's a neutral word, it's a descriptive word, not a negative word, which unfortunately in society, the word fat is used as an insult, and I'm here to change that. If you're in an eating disorder, like I said, in recovery from one or recovered and you're in a fat body, the question then becomes, well, how do you accept your fat body in the society that we live in? Being thin or having a great body, in quotes, great body, whatever the hell that means, gives you social capital. Let's just address the elephant in the room here. Society does treat you differently. You have social capital, you have privileges if you have the ideal body or a thin body. Not everybody treats people differently if they're in larger bodies, but most people do. Like I say, not everybody does. It's like being wealthy. Having a lot of money or being considered rich gives you social capital. That's the root of most, not all, but that's the root of most eating disorders. And that is seeking approval and acceptance from society, from the outside. Another root of eating disorders is due to trauma and a way of coping. But going back to the acceptance and approval piece, it's natural for us to want to seek acceptance and approval due to our genetics. If we weren't accepted way back when we were living in tribes, then we would have been rejected from the tribe and therefore been left to defend ourselves. The outcome of that would most likely have been death at worst, or at best, a life full of struggle and anxiety and constantly being in the fear response and having to fend for yourself and get your food for yourself and all of that. And so it's in your genetics to care about what others think and not be rejected. However, we don't live in that world now. And I'm going to share one of Brené Brown's quotes with you that really clarifies what I'm about to share. And the quote is, "If you spend your whole life trying to fit in, you will never truly belong." We no longer live in a tribal setting where if we were to be rejected based on anything, but at this day and age, it's our body size or the way we look or whatever it may be, it won't be a matter of life or death anymore. Yes, again, we live in a society that treats people differently depending on their body size, which is fucked up, but that doesn't mean we have to live this way forever. We get to be the change that we want to see. Gandhi says, be the change you want to see in the world. And this change is happening slowly but surely, and I'm a part of it, and you can be a part of it too. So what can you do? Let me just ask the question again. How do you accept your fat body in the society that we live in? Well, in all honesty, this might not sound like an actual answer, but the answer I have for you is this. You have no choice. You have to accept your body. Your body is the body that you've been given, and only you have this lifetime in this body. And so in this lifetime, your body is not going to change its genetics. No matter how hard you try, you can restrict and restrict and restrict, which is what you have most likely been doing, whether or not you were capable or are capable of, quote, sticking to the restriction doesn't matter. You'll be restricting emotionally and mentally anyway, but that will not get you anywhere good. It doesn't work and it doesn't change your genetics. The only option is to stop restricting and work on your body image. you've most likely come to the conclusion that all restriction does actually is cause your body to want to store more fat anyway. Most people's bodies are predisposed to hold on to as much fat as possible when in an energy deficit. Because that's sensible if you think about it. Your body doesn't all of a sudden turn stupid because you want a smaller body. It won't go, oh, well, there's not enough food in this environment because there's not enough coming in. So therefore, I won't store fat. Your body is too smart for that. Of course, it's going to store fat. And so if you naturally have a fat body, no amount of restriction will, quote, work. And if it did work, aka you were able to lose a lot of weight and be in a smaller body, it will completely fuck you up mentally anyway. And so it's completely off the table, pun intended, regardless. Restriction does not work. Your body knows what it's doing. Your unsuppressed, healthy, and natural body weight may be fat, but that's perfect for your body. And I know you may not want to hear that, but it's true. Body diversity is a thing. It may be fashionable and desirable to be in a lean body, and that's unfortunate, really. But that's not how bodies work. Bodies come in all different shapes and sizes. This might be hard to accept, but recovery from an eating disorder, whether that be anorexia, orthorexia, bulimia, binge eating, it's not about suppressing your natural body weight and not accepting what it may be. It's about not suppressing your body weight and accepting what your body is going to be. If your body naturally and optimally wants to be at a BMI of 30, for example, which is where I'm at, then to be anything other than that, you're restricting. And if you're restricting, then you'll have an eating disorder, evidently, which is why you're here listening to this or watching this. You need to make the decision of, I am going to fully recover and I'm not going to suppress my body weight. And wherever my body needs to go and whatever my body needs to do or deems appropriate, I'm going to allow it to happen and get completely out of its way, stay out of the way. I know that's hard, but it can absolutely be done. And it's the only way to true freedom. You can relax into that and let go. You can't go into recovery saying, I'm going to go all in and I'm not going to restrict. But if my body gets to a certain size or weight, then I'm going to start restricting again. It doesn't work like that because some people's bodies are larger sized. They're naturally supposed to be there and they look fabulous there too because it's natural for them. Strong, authentic women do not suppress their natural body size. What a quote, Tabitha Farrar, who's a legend. It's not about changing your body. It's about changing your perception of what beautiful is and changing your perception of what your body should be and releasing judgment around that. Because ultimately, it literally comes down to this. Number one, you're either restricting and suppressing your body weight and living in the hellhole of an eating disorder, whether that be anorexia, orthorexia, bulimia, binge eating, because even if you're experiencing binge eating disorder, you're still restricting or trying to restrict physically, but you definitely are restricting emotionally. It's a restrictive eating disorder nonetheless. And so it comes down to this. Number one, you either restrict and suppress your body weight or try to suppress your body weight and live in the hellhole of an eating disorder. Number two, or you're not. You're not restricting, you're eating unrestricted, and you're letting your body do what it needs to do. There is no in between. Stop micromanaging or micro dieting or just trying to control your body so that it goes within the lower part of your set point weight. I see you. I've done that as well. You're either restricting or you're not. It's like if you're pregnant, you're either pregnant or you're not. You're not like half-assed pregnant. You either are or you're not. And that is your choice in every single moment. Again, whether you're experiencing binge eating, bulimia, anorexia, orthorexia, You're either restricting and suppressing or trying to suppress your body weight, or you're eating unrestricted and allowing your body to do what it needs to do. Which one will it be for you? You can't recover and be restricting, even if you're restricting a little bit. The only option for you to be happy in this lifetime with the body you have is to figure out how you can accept your body when everyone else around you is afraid of either being fat or getting fat. That's the shit show that is society. So stop fighting your body, start to make friends with your body, and have a goal of accepting and loving yourself and your body as is. If you have a goal that is loving and accepting your body as it is, you will absolutely achieve it. And how do I know that? Because if you have had an eating disorder, or if you currently are experiencing having an eating disorder, you already have everything you need within you in order to achieve this goal that you set for yourself. End of. You have everything you need within you to achieve any goal you set for yourself. And so if you set the intention and the goal to accept and love your body as it is, you will get there. I promise you that, regardless of what body you are in. And I know that you can, I'm going to repeat this just in a different way. I know you can be happy and accept your body at its natural, beautiful, designed to be body weight. This is your time. If you were born a couple of 100 years ago, this wouldn't even be an issue. Fat bodies were celebrated and praised, but you weren't. You were born now. So this is your spiritual growth opportunity, if you like. It was definitely the biggest one I've had to learn in my life so far. So I promise you, if you set an intention to be happy in your body, then you will be able to. I've supported many clients to do it, and I've seen many influencers do it in fat bodies, and you can too. Again, I know I'm not in a considered fat body, but I was so petrified of any weight gain, and I saw my body having any kind of fat on it as hideous. And so even though it's not the same, because again, I'm still living within thin privilege, the mental side of it and the emotional side of it is the same, but I didn't have the society oppression on top of that as well, that fat people do. Then they do experience that, and it's not fucking okay. So a question you can ask yourself as well, which honestly gets to the root of it all, and I want you to journal this. Why do you give so much of a fuck what other people think of you? Because if you can live your life giving zero fucks, I know I'm swearing a lot, if you can live your life not giving a fuck what others think about you, then you're free, literally. So ask yourself the question, why do I care so much about what others think of me? And you will uncover things that perhaps you already know are there, but you'll be able to see it with so much clarity. And so to recap what acceptance looks like in terms of body acceptance, I have done a whole episode on this, so I am repeating myself a little bit here, but I do want to just go over that, because you may still be like, how the fuck do I accept my body then, whether I have a fat body or not? It starts off with body neutrality. So it starts off with letting go of the resistance that you have when you look in the mirror, when you see your body and it looks that way. It's meeting life on life terms and being like, it is what it is. It's going to the mirror. And I physically used to do this, and I encourage all of my clients to do it too. Go to the mirror, look at your body, notice what comes up, shame, embarrassment, disgust, etc. Feel those, and then physically shrug your shoulders, let out a sigh, and be like, well, this is what my body looks like. And like, surrender to that, because you cannot change reality in that moment. Well, you actually can. You can change your perception, which changes your personal reality. But in the reality that you're currently in terms of you thinking your body needs to look a certain way, you can't change that unless you have the education of how to do that. But you can accept that it is what it is. Acceptance is letting go of the resistance. It's letting go of fighting reality, and then surrendering is the embodiment of acceptance. And trust me, surrendering feels good. Many of you will think that surrender means giving up and not caring. That's not true. True surrender in this context is the most strongest thing you can do. And it feels so good. So try it. Also, to help you understand acceptance, if you were to look outside your window now and ask, well, you don't need to ask, you can see, what's the weather like today? Regardless of whether you like what the weather's doing today or not, it doesn't matter. You tend to accept the weather because it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. You just accept it. You can also moan about the fact that it's raining, and for some reason, especially Brits especially say it's a miserable day when it's raining. And I've said this before, but why is it miserable when the life source we need the most, water to survive, literally falls out of the sky? How the fuck is that miserable? It's like a miracle. And so just question like the words that you use around anything, including the weather. If you saw the weather and it was raining and you were like, oh, it's a miserable day, you're going to feel pretty miserable. But if you looked at the rain and was like, that's a miracle that it's raining, or just had neutrality around it, like, oh, well, it's raining, I'll just take an umbrella, or I have to move this thing and cancel this. It is what it is. You're going to feel a lot better when you do the action that you're going to do that day anyway. Why not do something or go about your day in a relaxed, surrendered, accepting state compared to just resisting it and being in a bad mood, right? So restricting is false control. It may feel like you're in control. It may help you to numb and suppress emotions, which is why a lot of people do it as well. But ultimately, it's not serving you. Restriction in binge eating or binging and purging is like getting a table from IKEA and building the table, dismantling the table, rebuilding the table, dismantling the table over and over again. Or if you're in the anorexia or the orthorexia and you're not experiencing binging, then it's like getting a table this from the shop already made, bringing it home, dismantling it, and just leaving it in a big pile on the floor dismantled. You have no table and you've got pieces all over the floor. Have you had enough yet of either of those scenarios? Why would you do that to yourself? For what reason? That's how acceptance kind of looks like. The second stage, because you don't have to just stop at acceptance either. It gets better than this. Sometimes acceptance can feel not fair. Like you've accepted, but you're still not happy. But then that's not actually true acceptance, to be honest. But you don't have to be only in acceptance. You can then move up to body appreciation and body gratitude. What are you grateful for about your body? Like, honestly, the things that your body can do, not everybody's body can do that. And so just take a moment to tune into that and just be grateful for the things that your body allows you to do. I have clients with different medical conditions, and they would be so grateful if their body could act like a quote normal body with no medical implications. So just take a moment to be grateful for the body that you have, regardless of whether you are disabled or whether you have medical difficulties. There is always someone that is worse off than you. And of course, there's always someone who is better off than you. But just take the time to feel gratitude for what your body does and what your body allows you to experience. The next stage can then be unconditional love. So this is what I'm talking about. My title is a food freedom and body love coach. This is the love I'm talking about, unconditional self and body love. The way you would love a child or a pet, just unconditionally. You may see a photo and have a judgment of yourself or a person, but if you love them unconditionally, it doesn't matter. It's just left there at a simple human judgment. It doesn't mean anything about you, or it doesn't mean anything about the person that you're perhaps judging. It's knowing and believing that you are more than the appearance of your body, and you love yourself regardless of whether you like the way your body looks or not, because love is much deeper than loving the aesthetics of the way your body looks. And so connecting to love really is such a beautiful thing and a natural thing to connect to. Therefore, yes, you have to start at acceptance, but I guarantee you, if you work through these stages and you start with acceptance and letting go of the resistance to what is and surrendering to what is, you can and will get to body love. And then the last stage can be body positivity. Again, I've spoke about this before, but just to clarify, body positivity is liking the way your body looks and feeling positive about your body, regardless of if you like the way it looks. So it's being confident to show your body off. It's putting yourself out there, whether that's on Instagram or whether it's just being in the world. Like, for example, wearing shorts or a short dress when you have cellulite, knowing that most people spend thousands, more than thousands in the industry to try and get rid of cellulite and not giving a shit anyway, because you know that there's more to life than what your body looks like. It's being confident to go out there in the body you have and celebrate that. It's appreciating the look of your body. It's appreciating your so-called flaws and just learning to love the look of them. That is what body positivity is in. That's what body positivity is. And you can also get to that as well, because ultimately your reality is all made up from your past conditioning, your beliefs, positive and negative. And so knowing that truth, you get to make up your whole entire reality anyway. It just takes practice to choose what feels good for you. There's some unlearning and letting go to do in terms of past conditioning and limiting beliefs, but you can do it. Of course you can do it. If you're sat there thinking, well, I understand what Victoria is saying, it makes sense, but I could never do that because having a certain body size means so much to me. When your whole fucking reality changes, it doesn't mean so much to you anymore. This is the point. This is where I got to, like, when I was 9% body fat and doing all the fitness modeling and all of that, I loved the way my body looked. And I still, looking back on those photos, although I think I was a bit too lean, to be honest, looking back now, excuse me, I still liked the way my body looked, but it doesn't mean fuck all anymore. I don't have a longing to like, oh, I wish I looked like that again. I don't care enough to even think about that. It's not sustainable or achievable anyway, but I've let that go. I'm not just pretending to be happy in the body I have now, which again, I know is still considered slim. I genuinely am happy and I love myself and my body as it is, but I've done this work. And so if you're in a fat body and you might perhaps not feel like I can resonate, I don't know how it feels to be in an actual physically fat body in society, no, but I sure as hell know how it feels emotionally and mentally to feel so much hatred towards the body that you have and to be so ashamed of it and all of that. But I know that regardless of if you're in a fat body or not, you can accept and love your body and live a life unsuppressed, food freedom, self-loving, body loving, because what other choice do you have? Mwah. I will see you in the next episode, my loves. And I would love to ask you, please, 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 can you leave a 5-star review on this podcast, because it really helps others to find it. I know that I always ask this and not everyone does this, but if you really get value from these episodes, and I know that many of you do because I get so many wonderful comments, I would be so unbelievably grateful if you could just take a few seconds to give back to me and to leave a 5-star review with some writing as to why it's helped you, and then I can help other people for free as well. So I really appreciate you. If you want to know the different ways you can work with me, there's 3 different ways you can work with me, starting from 49 euros. Have a nosy on my website. If you have any questions, anytime, reach out to me. I usually reply with a voice note. Sending you so much love.